Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Imagine for a second walking into your local bank. It's the exact same building, right? The exact same employees, that exact same smile at the front desk. But depending on literally just one number in your account, your experience could be drastically, completely different. So today, we're going to reveal the hidden rules of the financial system, and we're going to do it by following one guy's incredible financial journey from absolutely zero to $30 million. It's a journey that reveals exactly how the whole shebang actually works.
But first, I want to ask you a question, and I want you to really think about it for a second. How does your bank actually see you? When you walk through those glass doors or even just log into your app, are you viewed as a problem that needs to be managed, or are you treated like absolute royalty? Because honestly, the answer to that question dictates pretty much everything about your financial life.
Okay, let's dive right into this because there's a very uncomfortable truth we need to confront right out of the gate. The lie we're all sold is that banks exist to help all of their customers equally. But the truth? The truth is that banks exist to help profitable customers. The system treats people vastly differently based entirely on their net worth. In fact, you'll see that the financial system seems completely engineered to reward the exact people who need the help the absolute least.
To really understand how this works, I want you to meet David. He's 28, working incredibly hard, paying his bills, just doing his absolute best to survive. We're starting at level 1 here. David is what the bank essentially considers the invisible customer. His account balance is just $30. So one morning he buys a coffee and a sandwich. Then bam, an unexpected charge hits his account. Before he even knows what's happening, those automated overdraft fees kick in. Another fee drops, then another. In just 48 hours, his $30 quickly turns into zero, and zero turns into debt.
You see, the bank's computer, it doesn't care that David is working overtime. It doesn't care that inflation is just crushing him right now. The system only sees risk, and risk gets punished. This is the first hidden rule of wealth. The less money you have, the more expensive money becomes. It's wild, but poor people literally pay for being poor, and most never even realize it's happening. But David, he's determined. He absolutely refuses to quit. He skips vacations, he works weekends, and he starts climbing.
Fast forward a year later, and David reaches the next level. We'll call this the survivor level. He now has $1,000 saved up. To him, this is a massive victory. To the bank, well, it means almost nothing. But hey, at least those punishing fees finally slow down. But then, something strange takes their place. The dangerous advertisements begin. Suddenly, his mailbox and his inbox are just absolutely flooded with credit card offers and personal loans. The bank wants him to borrow money now because, at this stage, pushing him into consumer debt is highly profitable.
And guys, this is the exact trap where millions of people get stuck. They finally get a moment to breathe, and the system swoops in and offers them a golden cage, a nicer car, a bigger payment, maybe a slightly better lifestyle. So they start collecting debt, and before they know it, they're working harder than ever just to pay it all off. But David realizes something absolutely crucial here. The truly wealthy aren't collecting debt, they're collecting assets. They're acquiring things that put money back into their pocket rather than taking it out.
By making that vital mental shift, David eventually reaches level 3, the profitable customer, with $10,000 to his name. And overnight, everything shifts. It's like flipping a switch. The emails he gets from the bank, they sound entirely different. The whole tone changes. Customer service suddenly responds way faster. He's no longer a liability. He is becoming profitable. The very same system that ignored him or punished him before now starts to look at him and see a real opportunity.
So you really have to ask yourself, why do the fees suddenly disappear for David at this level? Well, it reveals a harsh yet completely essential reality. Banks honestly do not care how hard David worked to save that $10,000. They only care that he has it, because now they can take that $10,000 and use it to generate their own returns by lending it out to other people. The world rewards value, and once David fully understands these mechanics, he stops playing like everyone else and starts investing completely differently.
Which brings him to level 4, the priority client. David hits $75,000. One afternoon, his phone rings. And it's not customer support, and it is definitely not collections. No, it's a direct call from a real, dedicated relationship manager. Suddenly, his problems disappear a whole lot quicker. Certain fees that used to be mandatory, now they're entirely negotiable. The bank is actually treating him like a real relationship that they actively want to cultivate and protect.
At this stage, David's money is no longer just for survival. It has officially become capital, and capital attracts attention. It attracts much better opportunities. David starts to notice that wealthy people don't necessarily work 20 times harder than everyone else. That's a myth. They just start playing a completely different game with completely different rules.
And that realization opens the door to level 5, the wealth management door. David's balance hits $500,000. But what surprises him here isn't the number itself, it's the reaction. The bank no longer asks him to come in and wait in line at a branch. No way. They travel to his office. He gets visited by a whole team of tax experts, financial advisors, and investment specialists whose entire job is to ensure wealthy clients keep growing their net worth.
David discovers another really hidden truth right here. Wealth isn't just a giant pile of cash. Wealth, fundamentally, equals access. The rich just have more information. They hear about private equity or real estate opportunities way earlier than the general public. They avoid huge financial mistakes so much faster because they have access to brilliant people who solve expensive problems before those problems even have a chance to materialize.
Now David enters level 6, the inner circle. At $2 million, the bank literally stops treating David like a customer entirely. Instead, they start treating him like a highly valuable asset. He starts getting these exclusive invitations to private events, investor dinners, closed-door networking opportunities. He is now surrounded by incredibly successful business owners who think and operate on an entirely different wavelength. And it's here that David has a truly shocking realization while talking to these folks. The wealthiest individuals rarely, if ever, talk about money. Instead, they talk about ownership. They talk about systems. You see, while most people spend their entire lives working for money just to buy things, the wealthy spend their lives buying cash flow. They purchase businesses, real estate, equities. They're basically setting up reliable systems where their money works tirelessly for them day and night. That mindset completely accelerates his growth to level 7, the negotiation level. At $6 million, strict rules basically no longer exist. They're mere conversations. Loan rates? Negotiable. Fees? Negotiable. Investment opportunities are completely custom-tailored to his specific tax situation. Institutions are now aggressively competing for his attention, rather than the other way around.
And this brings us to a really crucial concept: leverage. Money attracts leverage, and leverage attracts power. The rich don't just passively buy off-the-shelf financial products. They use their leverage to force institutions to give them better terms, lower interest rates, and all sorts of exclusive perks. And these tiny, fractional advantages, they compound over the decades into millions and millions of dollars.
David then ascends to level 8, the private world. At $15 million, the whole banking experience becomes almost surreal. David's problems literally magically disappear before they even happen. Top-tier specialists are available on demand, day or night, coordinating every single aspect of his financial life. It is a completely different reality. And look, it's not because these people are necessarily smarter or luckier than anyone else. It's because the entire system at this upper echelon is designed to do exactly one thing: save David time. Poor people trade their time for money, but the wealthy, they use their money to buy time. Because at this level, time is universally recognized as the single most valuable asset on Earth. They outsource absolutely everything that isn't their core genius, and every year, that massive difference in time saving massively compounds their overall success. Finally, we reach the ultimate level. Level 9, the partner. David hits $30 million. He walks right back into the exact same bank building from the beginning of our story. It's the same logo, the exact same institution. But executives now completely clear their schedules just to take his meetings. His opinions matter. His relationships matter, and the bank will literally invent brand new custom financial products just to keep his business in-house. And this brings home the absolute most profound realization of his entire life. The bank didn't change. The system didn't change. It still sees the world exactly the same way it did when he only had $30 to his name. The only thing that changed was his position inside that system. It just sees David as a massive opportunity now, instead of a risk. So what are the core truths we can actually take away from David's journey? Well, the world rewards value. It rewards ownership. It rewards patience. And unfortunately, it heavily rewards you only after you no longer desperately need the reward. That is exactly why building wealth feels so unbelievably unfair at the beginning. The hardest stage is always that very first stage when your progress is totally invisible to everyone else. But remember this, every millionaire, every wildly successful entrepreneur, they all started small. They had to push through that brutal invisible phase just to get to momentum. Your goal isn't to impress people with a slightly nicer car. Your goal is to follow a totally different blueprint.
You need to build assets, build skills, build discipline, build ownership, and most importantly, build patience. Let the momentum take over.
I really want to leave you with this incredibly powerful insight. Wealth is rarely built in a day, but it is destroyed every day by people who quit too soon. Surviving the system long enough for compound growth to actually take the wheel, that is the real secret here. The first 1,000 is brutal, the first 10,000 is brutal, but once you finally break through, the system actually starts working for you.
They say the best time to build wealth was years ago, but the second best time is today. So I'll leave you with this thought. Your future self is waiting right now. What decision will you make next? Are you going to keep collecting debt, or will you start collecting assets? Start applying these principles today, and you can literally change the next 10 years of your life. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you next time.